Here to help us break down the foreign policy differences between President Trump and Joe Biden is Ali Pardo, the Deputy Communications Director for the 2020 Trump campaign. So, Ali, when we look at this Atlantic story, it's something that there's a lot to take away from it. You could look at it from a media perspective, a foreign policy perspective, whatever it may be. What was your takeaway when you first saw that story?
I found it offensive. I come from a military family. The president has been the biggest advocate for our men and women in uniform. He has done everything he can to keep them safe, both here and abroad. It seems to me like a desperate campaign pushing a desperate message because they know that we're making up ground and they know that the president is getting closer to getting reelected in November.
And since it came out, too, a lot of those who are supporters of the president said that this is maybe something to kind of push back on his effort to bring troops home from the Middle East or to get us out of these endless wars. A lot of people speculating of who these anonymous sources are, saying it could be John Kelly or Jim Mattis trying to get a glowing profile from the Atlantic when they inevitably end up running in 2024 or something like that. But do you think that this does come back to the idea that maybe the status quo, the people who typically make the decisions in Washington, aren't happy with the Trump administration's approach to foreign policy?
Absolutely. Look at China. It was Joe Biden who pushed for most favored nation status. It was Joe Biden who ensured that China was in the WTO. This president changed things up. He finally held China accountable. He finally brought American jobs home. People in Washington, D.C. were used to just letting things happen, letting these countries take advantage of us. This president changed the way we're doing things, doing business in Washington and doing business around the world. And guess what? They want to go back to what they had before because this president isn't sitting around and listening to what they have to say because he knows it didn't work.
And Ali, you bring up another problem that takes place in Washington is the idea of a rotating door. The idea that people get into politics only to really essentially ramp up their resume so they can leave to the private sector and make a lot of money. It's something that's not new to this time, but it is something that I think a lot of people feel is threatened during this time. There's starting to be a spotlight put on this practice. There's starting to be kind of a disdain, if you will, for career politicians. And it seems ironic that Joe Biden is the Democratic politician, the nominee, I should say, while this is all taking place. But do you think that that highlights the differences between these two candidates? One is a career politician and the other one is trying to disrupt the status quo?
Absolutely. President Trump, like I said, changed the way things go in Washington, D.C. Joe Biden it's kind of like miraculous. You have the far left who is sitting here concerned and pushing their party to be more socialist. And then you had Joe Biden, who somehow ended up as their nominee, pushing these socialist policies. They're trying to have the best of both worlds. In my opinion, both of those worlds are extremely awful places to live in. And that is why I'm working really hard to make sure we have President Trump 4 more years, our jobs back here in America, a strong economy, a V-shaped recovery to a pandemic. Those are the things this president has done and has delivered on. I honestly can't wrap my head around what the Democrats are trying to do right now.
And I don't think you have to really think back too long ago to think about what America was just a couple of years ago. I mean, we were involved in 2 of these long, endless wars, and it didn't seem like there was any end in sight. In fact, it seemed to be something that was so embedded in what we expect that it wasn't even questioned that much. I mean, we all know what happened that got us into Iraq, not the best evidence that got us in or left us there for that matter. But now it seems like Americans are waking up to the idea that it's perhaps China who's more of a grave threat than, foreign terrorism at the moment, or Russia for that matter, but that it's China's aggression economically that is really hurting Americans here. And you could trace it back to manufacturing, you could trace it back to their income, even the opioid epidemic. I mean, there are things that are hurting Americans. Do you think that Americans are waking up to that idea and will hold Joe Biden accountable a little bit for his coziness to China?
I mean, one thing you left out there was the coronavirus. They lied to the world about the coronavirus. They let the world blinded and had a pandemic that devastated country after country. So I think what we have is a country that people have opened their eyes and realized, hey, you know what? Like, we have to be wary of China. And you guys want to elect somebody and put forward as your nominee someone who literally helped them get the status that they have today? China was made, and China wants Joe Biden as president because he was the one who helped them get where they are. Our president right now is holding them accountable. Like I said, his trade deals, what he has done to bring our jobs back from China, he's the leader we need for 4 more years to ensure that China doesn't think they're going to run away and run away with the things that they've gotten away with over the years.
No, you bring up an excellent point, and just because it's not hard power, if you will, or a hot war, there are things that China is doing that could be labeled as forms of aggression, if not all-out warfare to some degree. I mean, it's a different type than maybe people will think. It's not guns, it's not something like that nature, but there's no doubt that their actions are hurting the American people right now. But Ali, I also know that it's your birthday as well, so I wanted to make sure that on behalf of everyone here at One America News, happy birthday, congratulations.
Thank you
Do
so
something
much.
fun tonight, enjoy yourself a little bit. Stop
I'll
working so
try.
hard.
Gotta get the president reelected.
There you go. I know you're working hard, but maybe have one drink or something like that, then get back to work. Ali Pardo, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks so much for having me.